Hello and welcome to this channel. Today we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to start a flight plan looking at the best flight planning solution available for any sim, and it's called Little Nav Map. Now I know there are some who use Navigraph. That's amazing as well, but nothing beats the price of free. Actually, it's not free. Alexander Bertel has devoted a lot of time and resources, so we should definitely support him as he continues to develop this amazing app. So I'm just going to show you the layman's approach to flight planning. I'm still learning how to use this program, so I'm just going to show you how I use it. So here's the interface, the default setting. You got your left center column and your right column, and my departure airport. Now what I did to start out is I set home. And to do that, you just simply right click on the fix, go to more, and then say set home view. And this way, whenever you're searching around on the map and you're scrolling around, looking at everything that's going on, you can always click back to home and start your flight plan. So in this case, we're going to start our flight plan. I'm going to click on this window right here. I know that my plan is from Manassass Regional Airpot to Charlottesville. So those are the two fixes. And I'm going to say create flight plan. As I do the flight plan, it's going to show me the direct path from this airport directly to Charlottesville. And you can also see the wind. And so in this case, we're looking at the winds. The winds are out of the north in the simulator. And the reason I know is because I just was in the simulator as I was planning this flight. So we're going to go ahead and plan our departure airport. So departure, select that. Departure runway is going to be 34 right, because we're going to use the longer runway. I like using the longer runway. So here we are, 34 right with the climb, and it's going to have me climb straight out and then a left turn towards the airport. But in this case, I know that this airport has some standard departures. So in this case, we're going to look at the departure arsenal, the right. So we're going to go ahead and right click on this and insert into your flight plan. So when I do that, it's going to say 34 right, click OK, and now the departure is loaded in. I'm probably going to just fly straight out and then go to Casanova, and from Casanova direct to Charlottesville, depending on what the conditions are. So I'm departing to the north. Cruise altitude is going to be 4,500, and I think that's the right altitude for direction of flight. We'll find out when we check in with ATC. And they'll either tell us that's right. If I remember correctly, it is correct for direction of flight. So that's it. That's the flight plan. I've got my departure leg, cruise altitude. It's got my top of climb. So that's going to tell me approximately when I can expect to hit top of climb, and then also my top of descent. So if I scroll out a little bit, I can see my top of descent. So that way I know mentally when I am about 15 miles from the destination, I should start planning my descent. So when I see 15 on the distance, 15 DME, then I can start descending down to the airport. And we're going to plan this flight as a VFR flight because that's the highest level of training that I have. I'm not going to simulate an IFR flight. So the next thing you'll see when you hear my voice will be in the airplane on runway 34 right, planning for departure. Okay. All right, now that we've finished our flight plan, we're going to jump in and see if we can fly this quick flight. So follow in. So here we go. We're going to jump into new flight. I'm going to choose the Cessna 172S enhanced flight model. That's the one that has the, it's close to the pilot's operating handbook in terms of performance numbers. So that's the one that I use. Going to take off runway 34 right based on the winds that we saw in the flight plan. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. And I am changing the time, not real time, but we're going to use the sim time as of the time that I did this flight. So here we go, right around this time. I had to re-record this because you know what? I made some critical mistakes and I just didn't want to embarrass myself in front of you all, and so that you guys could judge me because of my faux pas. Actually, I don't fly this airplane too often. I've been fascinated with the airliners and been playing around with that a lot, and of course creating content for you. So it'd be a great time to refresher on using the Garmin 530 inside of the Cessna 172S. So we're going to plan our flight. We're going to go from Manassass Regional Airport all the way to the Charlottesville Airport, just as the flight plan was outlined. So I'm going to fire up the Garmin. Here we go. And we're not going to talk to ATC this time. We're simply going to fly this flight in solitude. So here we go. I'm going to open up my Garmin 530. We're going to go to the flight plan here, and we're going to put in the fix. And I remember the first fix was Casanova. So, oops. So let's go down to the next spot, and then we're going to start with C. And we're going to change that letter. Oops. So it is Charlie Sierra, November. So we're going to keep scrolling. All right, so we're going to accept that. And then the next fix is the airport. So it's a nice short cross country. So here we go. If you're wondering how I'm scrolling, I'm using a vertical mouse with the scroll wheel. And there we go. And that's the flight plan. So we're going to go ahead and close out of this window. Now you can see it's direct to Casanova and then down to Charlottesville. We did put in a departure procedure, and for this airport there are departure procedures to fly. So let's click on the procedures button, and we're going to select a departure. And this one's going to be the Arsenal 5, is I think that's how it's pronounced. And we're going to depart runway 34 right. And the transition is FLU KY. So we're going to go ahead and select that transition, and then we're going to load that into the plan. Now, in the initial flight plan, we did not use that fix, fluky. So what I'm going to do is just remove it for the sake of this flight. If you're following, yes, just for this flight. So here we go. I'm going to delete this, enter, and there we go. So we're loaded. We're good to go. So we can close out of this screen and simply our compass, our heading indicator selected. We're just going to fire up the map really quick. And what we're going to do is look at the weather. Altimeter is 3009. So we're going to go ahead and set that altimeter. Okay. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and clear out this window, and we're going to depart. So here we go. Everything is good to go. All right. So I'm going to take off. You can see the windsock up to the right. Wind is breezy, and there are the wind gusts. So we're going to keep the plane on the runway for just a little bit and do a firm departure to the wind. There we go. Trim a little bit to release some of the back pressure as we climb out. I'm going to climb out probably at 80 knots. I am not following the SOP. I am flying like I stole it. So here we go. And then I'm going to put the autopilot on, the heading lock, and then we're going to figure out this GPS. All right, so it's left turn, 296, so we're going to go ahead and put that 296, and we're going to go right into nav mode. Just so that makes sense in my head, we're going to adjust this right here. we're climbing out. We're gonna level up at 2,000 feet. So once we hit 2,000 feet, we're gonna go ahead and level out. A little right of course, or correction, left of course. So here we go. I'm going to turn to the right to intersect the course on the GPS. So let's go ahead and turn to the right a little bit. Once we intersect the course, then we can go back on course. And the wind is coming from the north, so I'm gonna have to crab into it, and we're just gonna keep an eye on our gauges here. So I'm not missing a message. Just my Once the course deviation indicator lines up and centers, then I know that I'm on course, and what we'll do is turn to 296, and that'll have us track that course. That wind is really strong, so I'm going to turn a little bit more to make the intercept angle a little steeper. Hopefully we can get on course before we make our first turn, and we'll see. Alright, it's not updating, so we're going to go ahead and turn on course 296. Gonna go to nav. Once we cross Casanova, I'm going to climb up to, there we go, left turn to 240. So we're going to get ready to make that turn. So with this autopilot, you control the direction of the plane with this. So here we go, 240, 2 seconds, and start our turn now. That's going to get me on course, and the GPS will do the wind correction angle. So here we are. Beautiful. It's gonna keep me on course, so that's the course on the GPS, good to go, and it's gonna keep me on track. Once we cross Casanova, we will climb out. So here we go. To make this make sense in my mind, I'm just gonna turn this. It's just to let me know that I'm tracking 240 regardless of what the GPS what the heading indicator is saying here as it's crabbing in the wind. So we are on course. CDI is centering. That is excellent. the more I play with this plane, the more I enjoy the autopilot, the fact that it's not fully automated and you've got to do some thinking as you fly the airplane. And this helps you keep in mind the mental picture of where you are in space and in time. So here I am, I've got 240 on the GPS, the heading bug, but you can see that I'm crabbing into the wind, so the plane is actually cocked into the wind a little bit to give me that straight track. So we're tracking on course, and if I make this a little bit bigger, we're 4 minutes away from Casanova. At Casanova, I will climb to my cruise altitude. In this case, I know I'd planned 4,500 feet. This is my second time recording this video for you, so I'm gonna climb up to 3,000 feet and just stay there for the rest of the flight. Now, if I remember, in my flight training, VFR flights of 3,000 feet, you can stay at 3,000 feet or 25. Actually, no, I should either stay at 2,500 for direction of flight or go up to 4,500. So we're going to do just climb 500 feet, stay pretty low for the sake of time. While we're doing this, I'm gonna just load up the second Garmin. This is the 430, I believe. I'm gonna go ahead and just put direct KCHO, so that way I can always navigate direct to Charlottesville if I need to. If I were being vector, I like having one GPS focus direct to my destination, and the other one will go in accordance to my flight plan. So that's just how I fly. Keep the big picture in mind. Here we go. When I earned my ticket, my VFR ticket, and that's all I have, we didn't have GPS. So all you had was a VOR, and you had a map, and you had a compass. I mean, I'm not that old, but back when I got my license for the private pilot, you really didn't need to know anything about the GPS. So we had one in the airplane, but I never used it. So it's not until Flight Sim, Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, when I downloaded that Flight Sim, I began playing around with the GPS on some of the planes that they have. And then when I got X-Plane 12, I really started playing around with it. So I'm still wrapping my mind around it. It's a powerful situational awareness tool. And I like these older Garmin units because it really, for me, it's like the bridge between the past and the future. They're easy. Once you understand them, they're easy to use. I will also say that earlier on in my journey, I was like, man, I need to purchase an add-on, use the Garmin G1000. And I skipped over learning these older units. So now I'm coming back to the older units and realizing that they provide a great amount of situational awareness. You don't need the Garmin 1000 or the newer units, Garmin 3000. You can enjoy this sim with the default GPSs as well. Now, the newer Garmins, they're great. If you fly with the newer Garmin unit, it may be beneficial for you to be very familiar with the newer units. But if you just want to understand how to navigate through the airspace, how to fly, how to navigate from point A to point B, these units are good enough. All right, we are approaching our fix, Casanova. As soon as we cross the fix, we're going to start a climb at 500 feet per minute to get up to our cruising altitude of 2,500 feet. So here we go. I'm not going to preempt it. I'm waiting 32 seconds. All right, here we go. So it says direct to 232. So we're going to turn the heading first to 232. Now, make sure we're on it. Should be about it. There we go. And then we're going to start our climb. So I hit vertical speed and then I go maybe 400 feet per minute. That's going to give me an acceptable climb rate. It's not really fast, but I'm not going to lose too much vertical forward speed. And it's a comfortable climb rate. The passengers on this flight aren't going to even feel it or notice it as well. Uh-oh. So we're climbing out, looking good, direct Charlottesville, track. And here we go. To level off, is simply press the altitude button and it's going to level off at the altitude. And there you go. If I really wanted to be smooth with it, I would simply reduce my rate of climb until I approach my altitude and, you know, go from 400 feet per minute to 300 feet per minute to 200 feet per minute until it leveled off. So here we go. Now from memory, because I flew this segment before, about 15 minutes to the airport is when I should start my descent if I were at 4,500 feet. So I'm going to start my descent when I'm on final approach, literally, because you can intercept a final approach course at 3,000 feet when ATC vectors you. That's what I remember in my last flight. So I'm just going to maintain this altitude, and what we're going to do is just fly past the airport, turn around, and land on runway 3. So that's what ATC gave me in the flight that you will not see, because I will not embarrass myself and post that online. So we're tracking along. This is what the beautiful Cessna 172S looks like. This is a stock airplane. The only modification is the enhanced flight model, which is a paid add-on which allows you to fly the airplane according to the numbers. So that's the only change to it. They didn't change the look, but they fly according to the numbers. And then also this plane does not have a carburetor heat. So, oh, does it? Nope, no carburetor heat. So that's the only difference here. So you just don't have to worry about that. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. So we're cruising along. We're doing well. I'm going to bring out the mixture just a little bit. Save some fuel, and here we go. GPS is centered. Turn this on a little bit more. So for those who are wondering, I'm not going to give you a complete GPS or autopilot overview of in this airplane. I've got to research this so I can speak with greater clarity on this. But this is just me flying as a weekend warrior, just hopping into the plane and just cruising along. So navigating with the GPS, GPS is on here, and it says GPS, so it's tracking the course. So it gives me the direct to course, the DTK, whatever that means. I'll tell you about that later. And if I wanted to navigate using VORs and the radio frequencies, I will click on this and change this from GPS to VLOC, and that's where you can track a VOR or a localizer or some other fix as well. You've got different windows that you can click on and see here. So you can see my departure, nearest airport, and then I can go through the sub menus here, nearest intersection. So if you're talking to ATC and they give you an intersection, you can go direct to that intersection. Nearest NDBs, we don't hear about those very often, but these are NDBs that you can tune and track to. And then the nearest VOR. So the VOR that we pass is Casanova, and it is on a bearing of 052, and that's behind us, and it's 12 miles. And here's the frequency. So if you're flying along and you want to tune in, the Garmin unit gives you a lot of information that you can use in your flight planning. So let's go to last sub window, nearest airspace, no airspace. So we're good to go. So we can go out of this window. So you've got the nav, you've got the waypoints, you can get information on the waypoint, and you've got these sub windows. So that's what you need. And then this window is amazing. It's to plan your top of descent. So if I remember correctly, the airport elevation is 1,640 feet. No, 640 feet. So my pattern altitude will be 1,600 feet. Just to be safe, we'll do 1,700 feet in this unit. So that's the altitude that we want to be at. And we want to be there maybe 5 miles, or let's say 3 miles before the airport. So here we go. And it's going to pick the fix. And then I can do my descent profile. I want to descend at 500 feet per minute. And that's it. VNav, it's not going to give you a notice, but you can quick switch to it back and forth, and you'll be able to find plan your rate of descent right here. So that's just good information to have. If you're talking to ATC, they will descend you appropriately, and in this case, we're going to maintain that altitude until we intercept the RNAV into runway 3. So I'm a little bit off course, just a little bit, but it's close enough for being a VFR pilot. So we're just going to keep tracking along. Here we are. So we're 10 minutes away. I'm going to close out this window, open up my trusty map. I can see where I'm tracking along. There we go, putzing along. Here's the airport. So when I get close to the airport, I want to fly a beam to numbers. So I can click on the airport here, get information. Runway 21 and 3. So when I get a beam to the airport, I'm going to fly a heading of 210, and that'll give me an approximate downwind. And then after that, we'll turn into the RNAV to runway 3. Since we're not talking to ATC, this should be an awesome approach. In the recording that will never see the light of day, ATC did not like my approach speeds, and so they wanted to factor me around for another approach, and I disobeyed and landed, and it was my best landing. So I'm going to try to recreate this landing for you. Hopefully you enjoy it. Okay, so we did look outside the airplane. Here's some of the other views. Shift 1 gives you this nice slow motion pass by, and you can see the beautiful terrain. In my simulator, I'm only using Sim Heaven. It's the only add-on for scenery, and also the night lights that I showed in another video as well. Shift 2 gives you this faster flyby. There you go. And Shift 3 is a view from the ground. So my plane is somewhere out there deep away. So here we are. Give you a nice little 360 view. this is a great plane as a default add-on. I have no complaints, especially with the enhanced flight model. The airplane looks great, and with the enhanced flight model, it flies pretty much like the real thing. I do have a few hours in the Cessna 172, and so this thing feels like the real thing to me. So inside the cockpit, you can look down. It is beautifully modeled. It is very well textured. And you can look in the back. The doors open. This is great. This add-on itself would probably be, you know, 1 or 2 planes. Default planes are certainly the value of the simulator. So when you invest in X-Plane 12.3.0, which is the beta version now, you are getting so much value for your money. Even if you fly the default airplanes, you can have a great time just using the default airplanes. You get the Cessnas, you get the Beach Baron, you get the Cessna Citation, you get you get several planes. You get 737, MD-80. So it's a beautiful setup right here. So here we are. We're about 8 minutes from our airport. So we're going, and our distance is 16 miles. So about 5 miles out, I will turn my pseudo downwind. So we're going to keep tracking the distance as we go along. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is me doing a quick hop on days when I just want to practice navigating from point A to point B. This is how I do it. I know there are more technical ways to do it, but this is me. And sometimes you're busy, you just want to get in there and just fly around. You just have like 15-20 minutes, and you can plan a quick cross country. This is a 50-mile cross country. Again, that is 56 miles altogether, point to point. So that would count as cross country time in your actual logbook. So here we are, keeping track of my distance. I know with all the tutorials that I do, someone's probably wondering, does he even fly in a simulator? And you know what? In the past couple of weeks, I spent very little time actually flying. I've been clicking around and just discovering so many amazing things in the simulator. So today is one of the rare days where I decided not to try to learn anything new, but simply use all the knowledge that I have and just plan a quick short cross country flight for you. So here we are. We're approaching the airport. We're 12 miles out. I know someone's going to judge me. They're going to say, okay, you should enter the pattern at this angle, fly over the field. And so I'm going to just break the rules. It's the sim. You can do whatever you want to. So what I'm going to do is, as soon as I hit the 5-mile radius, I'm going to turn to a heading of 210, and we're going to fly a downwind, beam the runway, and then we're going to set up for the approach. So in the time that remains, let me load up the RNAV approach. And to do that, you're going to click on procedures, and you're going to select your approach. So here we go. We're going to do RNAV to runway 3. We're going to pretend that we're getting vectors, and we're going to go ahead and load it. At the 5-mile marker, we're going to just turn our downwind, and then after that, we're going to turn our base and then line up for the beautiful approach into runway 03 into Charlottesville. And if all goes well, it's going to be another great landing because I'll have lateral guidance. So here you can see the airport up ahead. I believe that's the airport up ahead. Maybe it's further in the distance. I like the haze. That is what it looks like up there sometimes. This is a Blue Ridge mountain area, and so I've driven through this area. There's often a blue haze in the mountains as you travel. So here we are, 7 miles, getting ready to transition to my heading instead of nav. Right, gonna give myself a little buffer, so at the 6 mile marker, we're gonna do our little turnout. All right, transitioning to heading, and we're gonna turn to a heading of 210. Maybe not quite 210 because there is a wind from the, but if I remember the weather, the winds were very light here, so we'll be close to 210, we'll be fine. Okay, so here I am flying a beam. And we're gonna maintain this altitude, and we're gonna fly right past the airport. And then I'm gonna turn in my own base final approach. So here we are on the map, just to give us a good look-see. There's the airport to the right, right over here. So my turn to final is gonna be a pretty good one. I may have to hand fly this just to line up. So here we go. I'm gonna select the final approach course. So we know the course is 030. It's a relative course. Winds are 010, so it's from the northeast at 12 knots. Altimeter 3009, so let's go ahead and change our altimeter. There we go. We'll check here. I'm gonna fly all the way out to Muldoon. Maybe not. Same is probably a good fix right here, and turn in. So gonna turn this to 030. That way it makes sense in my mind. Right now we're tracking the GPS, so it's going to tell us once we activate the approach what the correct course is. So we're beamed a number, so I'm going to go ahead and go to procedures, and I'm going to go activate vectors to final to let the GPS know that I'm going to be coming into land. So here, the message. There we go. Activate to final. I'm 2.6 miles out. It's a LPV approach, and so segment is active. We're going to look to the right. At this point, I can begin slowing down. There's no need to race at full speed. see I'm flying past nice downwind here. When I do these type of approaches, what I'm looking for here is the vertical guidance. Once I pass this, then I know that I can start my turn inbound, start my base turn. But I'm going to let it go all the way to full deflection up, so that way I will intersect the descent from beneath. So full deflection up, I will turn my base leg and then wait till we line up. So the base turn is going to be to 310, and I'll do that with my heading bug, and then we'll intercept the descent from beneath the course. So here we go. Again, these are non-standard procedures. This is just what I do, and I'm just tooling around, and I'm not an IFR rated pilot, so again, this is just me as a VFR pilot. As a VFR pilot, you've got a little bit more latitude, and this is a class Delta airspace or Charlie, I don't remember off the top of my head, but you'd be talking to ATC and they would give you your turns. We're going to start our turn to 310. To power reduction. Gonna fly into tell me, wow, this is fun. Tells me how far I am from the course. Oh, that's beautiful. I've never paid attention to that. I guess when we're half a mile, we'll start our turn in. We'll give ourselves a nice dog leg to intercept the final approach course. So here we go. All right, we're going to give our turn to okay, so GPS is not going. All right, so I'm going to disengage. Alright, we're going to start our turn to intercept. Now I'm hand flying. For some reason my autopilot was not engaged, reacting. So here we go. We're going to turn to heading just to give us a small intercept. Alright, here we go. Now I can start turning to my 030. There we go. Timing it. Doing some hand flying here. Here we go. Just a little off, so there we go. Don't need this anymore. Alright. There we go. Track 030. I can see the runway up ahead, so I would report runway in sight, and then we're going to get ready to do our initial descent. So when we're two bars above, I'm going to do our final power reduction and start our descent. So you're spoiled with the automation, makes everything look so nice and easy. So this is me hand flying and doing quick instrument scans, making sure my heading is all right. And here we go. To start my descent, I'm going to start first with the power reduction. Maintain altitude, let the plane slow down, and then now let the nose come down. What we're looking for is maybe 400 feet per minute or so. Gotta adjust a little bit. This does require quite a bit of concentration, so can you imagine if I were in zero visibility, my heart rate would be a little bit higher. So what we're doing is controlling our rate of descent with power and maintaining the speed. So I'm about 75 knots on my final approach course. And everything is small changes, small corrections. And drop my first notch of flaps, so I'm going to slow down first. And drop the notch of flaps. There we go. So if you slow down first before you drop the notch, you're not going to get the ballooning effect. So now I'm going to add a little bit of power to maintain my rate of descent. Looks like it's going to take a while to reach that runway, right? Must be a headwind. So I'm going to delay my last application of flaps until I'm close. If I were to lose my engine now, I would not make the runway. That is for sure. So these are things that you want to think about as you plan your approach. So sometimes a 3-degree glide slope towards the runway in a VFR airplane, in a VFR flight may not be ideal. In this case, I know for instrument flying, it's nice to set up your stable approach when you're far out. But when you're doing an approach to land with a VFR airplane, you want to minimize your time in that zone where you could lose your engine and not be able to make the field. So I would turn a much tighter base into final, traffic permitting, but again, this airport is a controlled airport, so I wouldn't be able to make that determination. The air traffic controller will. So in this case, I'm gonna maximize my chances by keeping just the first notch of flaps. We're not going to deploy the second notch of flaps until we're certain that we're going to make the runway. This landing is beautiful. Here we go, adding a little bit of power. I'm getting a little low. It's better to be high than low on any approach. Right now, I'm right on the numbers. I'm amazed of, this instrument scan that I've been working on is paying off greatly. So looking at pitch, airspeed, looking at your heading indicator, your compass, the needles. All right, here we go. So we're going to slow down a little bit. Power reduction. Pitch up a little bit. All right, minimal ballooning. So we're going to trim some of the pressures out. Here we are. A little off course, a little high, but close enough for a VFR approach. And just to prevent my last big pitch change, I'm going to go ahead and do my last notch of flaps. Little pitch up. There we go. Trim this out. Right on. Here we go. If you've been watching this far, I want to thank you for supporting this channel. Your viewership is greatly appreciated. Your thumbs up, greatly appreciated. New subscribers, so glad that you joined on this journey. If you enjoyed this type of content, consider leaving me a thumbs up. That lets me know that I'm on the right track and providing value for you. For everyone else, I do not tutorials, but tips on tricks on how to get more out of X-Plane 12. And occasionally we'll throw in a complete flight start to finish like this one. So here we go. Let me quiet down. Do my final power reduction, looking down the runway, reducing the speed. Pitch up, pitch up. Ooh, that was not the smoothest landing. A little rough, but you know what? It counts. We're down on the runway. We made it. Oh, you know what? I had the brakes engaged. No wonder the nose wheel came down so fast. That is like a carrier landing. So here we are. Welcome to Charlottesville. This concludes this segment. And what we're going to do is just taxi off the end of the runway and get out of here. And once we cross the hold short lines, we are done. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Your viewership means a lot to me. Again, if you enjoyed this flight, consider subscribing if you want to see more of this type of content. My wish for you is that you enjoy some sim time today or whenever you have a chance. Get out there, have a great time, and I will see you in the next video.